The chair is going to call the Minnesota House Committee on Public Safety, Criminal Justice Reform together. And the first item of business, we do have a quorum, although people have wandered in and out, but they have checked in. So the first item of business is to have approval of our minutes. And we're trying to be really good here to stay current on our minutes. And so the chair would entertain a motion to approve the March 5th minutes. Representative Johnson moves approval of the minutes of March 5th. Any discussion? If not, then all in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion prevails. The minutes are approved for March 5th. So today we've got three bills we want to hear from. We also want to hear from a group that's going to talk to us about the work that they do, that the chair really has encapsulate under our a big Western thought about redemption. And so today is, whereas the other day we had a discussion on cannabis and the responsible approach to cannabis, today what I want us to do is focus on the centrality of redemption in our criminal justice work. And I know that many folks have, at least I used to think, redeeming, redemption, kind of like a nice thing to do. Actually, a very powerful human activity, a very powerful, necessary activity, in my opinion, for a good and just civilization. And one that is not, frankly, easy to do. Redeeming has to do with actions after, many cases after wrongdoing has been committed. And I don't know about you all, but I persist to struggle with that wrongdoing. And yet my own growth as an individual, and I would argue our growth as a society, really requires us to struggle with that in terms of getting to the next place of where we're called to be. And I think that's the place of being community. And it's difficult to be community when we're not, when we're alienated, isolating, rejecting others, including others who at one time have committed a wrong. Particularly egregious when the others are seeking that kind of reconciliation and personal growth as well as societal health. So I hope that today's bills will give us an opportunity to think about that and filter those deliberations along with the technical questions that this committee is really good at vetting, allow us to vet these proposals with that concept, that value of redemption in mind. So with that, members, we're going to start. So are they here? Yes. Okay, very good. Oh, gosh. So with that, I'm going to ask representatives from the group All Square to come forward and share with us who they are, what they do, why they do it, and any other words of wisdom and advice they would have of us as policymakers entrusted with the public safety and well-being of our state. So with that, I welcome you to the committee and look forward to your testimony. And whoever starts, our procedure is we introduce ourselves for the record by name and then proceed with our testimony.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be here today. My name is Emily Hunt Turner, and I'm the founder and CEO of All Square, a craft grilled cheese restaurant and professional institute that was built to invest in the minds and lives of justice-impacted individuals while uprooting the dominant narrative that surrounds those who have traveled through the system. At our core and true to our name, we believe that those who have paid their debts to society are all square. And those who have done their time or paid their fines should be supported in and not excluded from securing a bright and productive future. We exist to provide this support through workforce development in our restaurant and personal development, professional development, mental health services, and restorative services in our institute. With that, I would really love to show you all a 2-minute video that captures a little taste, no pun intended, of what we do and who we are.
This busy restaurant specializes in one thing: grilled cheese sandwiches. It's called All Square, and the secret behind its success isn't just about the food, but the people who work here.
We are employing folks who've been impacted by the justice system.
This enterprise was created by Emily Hunt Turner, a civil rights attorney who noticed a need among people with a criminal record.
Once anybody see that you have something on your record, they count you out.
All Square sort of came about as like, what can we create that is a response and a solution to criminal justice setbacks? And grilled cheese was kind of fell out of nowhere.
For many of the employees, All Square has changed their lives enormously.
With my background, I was having a really hard time finding a job and really not sure which direction even to go in. What All Square offers me is an opportunity. I'm just so grateful. I don't really know how to put it into words.
All Square is obviously a play on sandwiches that are actual square, but also the saying is, once you've done your time, you're all square.
But All Square is so much more than just a second chance restaurant. It also invests in its employees' futures beyond their 9 to 5.
They also go through a 12-month professional development program in which they focus on either a track of entrepreneurship to launch their own business or a track of law, pursuing a career in the legal field.
I'm hoping to start law school next fall, and I never would have thought that that's possible without the support that I get here. To have my mom be proud of me for the first time in a long time, yeah, that's huge.
When I come to All Square, it was just making me feel free. I know my mission for being here, put my dreams out of just my head, but on paper. I know when I come here, I am going to amount to something. When you lock up, no matter how long, it's hard to try to figure out where you're going to be in life. You think about job, housing, mental stability, and for me, All Square is giving me that,
They came to the door to have us help them. It's been really impactful to have folks that care about me on a personal level. It's powerful how quick community can be built, but how legitimate it can be when it's real.
Today we will hear a variety of bills that are centered on the notion of redemption, and I'd like to say a few things about what redemption does not look like for me. With a sister who is in and out of federal prison and dear friends and mentors who are constantly facing barriers due to their record, this is and always will be personal. While practicing as a federal attorney, I witnessed the categorical exclusion of those with criminal records from both public and private housing due to tenant selection policies that indiscriminately deny housing to those who have a criminal record, regardless of the record's age, relevance, or accuracy, and regardless of the individual's merit and circumstance. Imagine, if you can, living in a world where you're told that your will, your desire, your dreams, your past, your future, your talent, and your truth simply don't matter. I know a man who was told just this. After years of proving himself a sound, responsible tenant right here in Minneapolis, he lost his housing unit due to a criminal record that was 41 years old. This gentleman and his wife, both in their 60s, had to relocate with family in Texas, despite affidavits from the housing providers themselves saying that they were model tenants, but their policy simply didn't allow for him to stay. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, these policies and practices all across the state do not uphold the notion of redemption, and in fact, they flat out deny it. I don't have a criminal record, but I should. I have engaged in criminal activity on various occasions throughout the course of my life, and I'm not proud of this, but it's real. And this is the part of the discussion that needs to happen as well. The conversation isn't only about those of us who do have criminal records, it is also centered on those of us, including myself, who don't, but should. Why didn't I get caught? Why did I have the privilege to talk my way out of the times that I did get caught? And most importantly, had I been caught, Would I be supported today? Would I be an attorney today? Not would I face consequences, but would I ever be allowed to move beyond my mistakes? And would I ever be allowed to pursue a personal and a professional path forward? Allsquare was founded to be a part of that path and is funded and fueled by citizens, the majority of whom exist right in the state, on the ardent belief that excluding an entire segment of our community from lending, employment, insurance, education, and voting fundamentally undermines humanity and our collective liberation. We ask that you, as lawmakers, thoughtfully examine the reality that our brothers, sisters, neighbors, and colleagues are being perpetually punished beyond their sentence, as we all deserve access to redemption. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt Turner. And by the way, that video made me hungry.
Stop by
I
anytime.
will.
4047 mini ha-has.
Sounds like a field hearing to me, committee members.
Mr. Chairman and committee, thank you for this opportunity this afternoon. My name is Rosalind Pedrasine, and I'm the board chair of Allsquare, and I am also here to discuss the importance of today, Redemption Day, and highlight one issue which I feel is of particular significance. Sorry, is this better? Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So unbeknownst to most Americans, our right to vote is actually not fulfilled by the Constitution. It's a right that's been left entrusted to and importantly enforced by each state in this nation. And according to different sources, I've seen online that there's over 52,000 citizens who are disenfranchised by a restriction on their right to vote due to a felony conviction and their corresponding supervision status. A restriction that is felt not just every couple of years on election day, but in their daily lives. The stigma that comes with conviction is just a continuation of the sentence, and restoring the right to vote is a necessary step to reclaiming a sense of dignity and ownership over one's role in the community. And so here we are in 2019, and we're only now celebrating 100 years of women actually having the ability to exercise this right, despite our 242-year history as a democratic nation. But not all women can partake in this celebration. Black women and other women of color, due to our race, were excluded from both the movement, the reach of the movement, and its victory. And Black and Native men who once had this right but saw it stripped away, they too were excluded. And this legacy of exclusion continues today. Of all the many issues at hand for Redemption Day, I highlight the issue of voter restoration as it impacts so many across all communities, but where this issue intersects and imparts harm on communities of color cannot be understated. And as my own mother tells me, once you know better, you do better. And so we must pick up the pace in closing the gaps. Gaps that exist due to various iterations of exclusion, from the early days of a convict leasing system that came from the ostensible abolishment of slavery through the 13th Amendment, but left exception for servitude if punishment for a crime, to the redistricting we still see happening today, which in many places allows an entire prison's population to be counted as legitimate constituents for political purposes, but silences them as individuals upon release. Generations of Americans have been denied this right and left to watch from the sidelines as decisions about their futures and their families are decided by, at best, society around them. And so this right is as foundational to our status, our belief in our own personhood and place in this nation as it is to our belief in the legitimacy of it itself and its institutions. We proclaim the right to life and to liberty, but for those with a criminal record, it's only as much as it is conditioned on the access determined by each of you, our state representatives. And for what benefit are these restrictions once an individual has served their time? The responsibility of the criminal justice system is to provide consequence, but also to rehabilitate the individual and protect the community's safety, because this condition is typically intended to be temporary. Once an individual has paid their debts to society, will we fulfill our part and truly welcome them back? How are we, the citizens of Minnesota, made better by continuing to limit the voices of our brothers and our sisters in each of those 52,000 impacted? How is our public safety furthered when an individual who has served their time is denied access to housing, to employment, education, mobility, and a voice at the polls, these basic necessities to be what we label a whole and contributive member of society. At All Square, we recognize that we're just one part of a larger whole. We're the new kid on the block. We're motivated and excited to stand alongside others already working in this space. We're excited to do our part, not just to support those in need of a second chance, but to elevate the voices of those who never had a first one. And for those who charity is not enough, but who need change now, dynamic change now. And despite our wild ambition, grilled cheese, it alone won't resolve the issues we're discussing today. But we're doing our part. And our fellows, they and so many others across the state are doing their part. And so listening today, yes, but also taking action, which will aid the justice-impacted community to truly move beyond existing, to having the ability to use their voice, move beyond circumstance, and self-actualize their dreams. That action, that's your part. The state of Minnesota's motto means the Star of the North, a phrase that conjures a spirit strongly related to the journey for freedom and, simply put, fairness. I hope that we as a community continuously strive to live up to that shining standard and make a shift toward greater decency and equity for all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Petrosine. Did I
Thank you very
pronounce
much.
your name correctly?
Yep.
Very well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Welcome to the committee.
Thanks. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I am Valencia Hertog. I currently live over South Minneapolis. This is my first time testifying and talking about this topic publicly, and I appreciate your time and attention. I do plan on speaking on this topic in the future because I have a great passion for the changes that is yet to come. I currently am a fellow at All Square as I pursue my career goals, which is to help the people in my community. I am working on becoming a peer recovery coach, as well as my long-term goal to be a dual licensed professional to treat both mental health and substance use. I want to work with my Native American community and people impacted with addiction and violence. I was convicted of a domestic assault in the second degree and received a 27-month sentence and served 15 of those incarcerated. There were so many women I met in prison who were also there because they were victims of domestic assault and simply defended themselves. Some of them were serving life sentences for their first offense. I am here today because I experienced firsthand how having a record makes it difficult to pursue your dream and live a normal life. Having a record means I can't get licensed through the Department of Human Services or certified through the state, which means I can't help the people I want to. The people that, like me, are struggling with addiction and violence, which makes my dreams feel unreachable. But having a record doesn't mean that I am not capable. In fact, it means my experience and my history makes me more capable, relatable, and empathetic. I know what it is like to deal with domestic violence on a daily basis. I know how easy it is to turn to drugs for an escape, to want to be numb. I know I can get my drug-related crimes expunged, but a lot of people, including myself, have other charges that come along with our old lifestyles. Knowing that my second-degree assault can never be expunged or pardoned off my record limits me and will follow me for the rest of my life. What are people to do when they want to move on? What are people to do when they are not that old person they once were? How long should a person have to pay for the mistakes they have made in the past, and even after they turn their life around? As of January 12th, 2019, I got off paper and have some of my rights restored, which I am very grateful for and plan to vote during the next elections. I live in sober housing, but know that in my future, my record will come and haunt me as I seek permanent housing, knowing they do criminal background checks. In the future, some of my jobs I want to apply for, I know I won't be considered. Some of the schooling I planned for my future won't be able to enroll, or will be told in my second year I won't be able to be licensed or to continue on. And another limiting barrier right now that I am dealing with is my volunteering opportunities, where they also run background checks. My job opportunities after All Square are slim to none. My path forward is I plan to work through a sovereign nation where the licensing and certifications have different protocols. This gives me hope and my option to still have a positive impact on my community. I know my crime is severe, but my record doesn't reflect the entire story. My criminal history is a reflection of a person addicted to drugs and also in a relationship with a person that has a history of domestic violence. As you consider the bills today, I ask you to consider people as individuals and allow all of us to move forward as we have decided to become better ourselves. There are many people like me who want to use their experiences, knowledge, and perspectives to help people. I know my experiences can help people on similar journeys as mine and want to be better, do better, and get better. Making changes today won't only be helping me achieve my dreams. I know you will be opening the doors for others. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hertog, and thank you for openly sharing parts of your journey, including the path that you've chosen for yourself going forward in terms of redeeming yourself and helping to redeem our common community. It's very admirable, and we are certainly pulling for you, and part of the way we can pull is to continually look at our laws to see how we can adjust those that allow us to continue to build community. I have to say, members, as I door knocked this fall, I door knocked several doors where the person who answered, I think, shared much of the experiences you have, Ms. Hertog. Many of them were not off paper yet, and so they couldn't vote. They certainly had a strong desire, and they had a strong desire also to be good members of our society, being very productive and a part of our community. So you're not alone. This is a very common Minnesota story. So with that, and did I pronounce your last name correctly, Hertog?
Yes.
Very well. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to open this up to questions, and we have a question from Representative Considine. Chair?
Thank you, Chair. Actually, my question was, could you say that address slower so I can hear it?
Absolutely. It's 4047 Minnehaha Avenue in Minneapolis, 55406.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair Considine, I hope you're bringing me with you. So,
We'll go together.
sounds good. Chair Dehn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for the presentation. I've been there several times. And so don't just think of grilled cheese when you're thinking about going. Think of actually like gourmet grilled cheese. I mean, it's amazing. I'll tell you right now, you can probably walk out of there without like burning a big hole in your wallet, and just know that while you're eating the food, what makes it even taste better is you're actually helping some people who are trying to get on a different path in their lives. And there's, that's like invaluable in ways that you really can't describe. So I want to thank you for, setting up and doing what you're doing, because it's much, much more than grilled cheese. It's really about the fellowship in people's lives, but the grilled cheese are a nice benefit too. So thank you.
Very well. I'm wondering, how long has All Square in particular been around? You're also part of, if I remember correctly, you're also part of a national movement. Maybe you could say a little bit about that, and then also perhaps share, how many people who are aspiring to re-enter our society as contributing community members. How many people are you working with? And what have you seen so far in terms of outcomes?
Let's see, the first question. So we have, our first cohort was started with 14 fellows, and we are not part of a national organization other than we are incredibly thankful to be joining all the amazing work of people who we know and respect on the ground in cities all across the country doing this work. Many of our board members in particular who have been spearheading voting restoration and the rights of formerly incarcerated individuals across the country. So essentially, can you say that last question again, Chairman?
I think you partly answered at the beginning
Sure.
with the 14 fellows. So I was just trying to get an idea of the scope of lives that are being touched, and what kind of results have you seen so far?
Yeah, yeah. So we have, right now, like I said, we love the restaurant piece of this thing, but we have a space next door. It's sort of a dual storefront, and next door is, in our minds, sort of where the magic is happening and will really happen in the future in the Institute. And for us, it's not just, like you said, investing in personal development and professional development in the lives of the fellows that go through our program, but it's also engaging in building community. We have restorative circles there each Monday, and check our website and calendar to be determined on, we really look forward to hosting community panels and film screenings and community events that also benefit our fellows and their future careers and their endeavors. We have a variety of different humans in our program, and we love that about it. I think we have a few fellows who are seeking further education, one in nursing, 2 fellows that took their LSAT recently. As a team full of lawyers, we, of course, get a little bit excited about that. One starting as paralegal associates in April, and Valencia next to me. You can speak for yourself, but obviously going to be an incredible public speaker, and her dreams that she's achieved on her own of taking all the steps she needs to be a peer recovery counselor. And so it's been a wide array of humans and stories that have walked through our doors, and ultimately they're not, maybe we're contributing to changing their lives, but they've changed ours and the communities as well. The community has been absolutely wonderful in welcoming us with open arms, and they also tip our fellows really well, which we appreciate.
It seems to me that part of the magic, if you will, I shouldn't use that word, but I mean, part of the dynamic here is that there's skill development, happening. You can imagine all sorts of, particularly, having left incarceration and sticking to a schedule, being part of a team that's coordinating. I get all that. In addition to the technical professional skills that are involved in running a business. But it seems to me that the dynamic really has to do with this personal dynamic. In the video, there was about, the word share, or rather caring, supporting. So in other words, in my mind, you could provide all sorts of technical, services for someone to develop their skills. But it seems to me that many of the fellows, in addition to that, really require and are thirsting for ways to round out their humanity, to connect with others, to have others hear themselves out. So you talked about restorative circles, et cetera. And I'm wondering, Ms. Hartog, if you can share a little bit about what that has meant for you in terms of connecting it at that level beyond just the professional skill development level.
Well, I would like to just make sure that we mentioned that the institution days are on Monday, and we've done numerous things on Monday. First, we all got food safe served. We all can legally license now to work with food and know how to handle it. We also did introduction to law, so we all know our rights too, as people that live in the U.S. today. We also did a 12-week class on entrepreneurship. I never knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew that I was given a voice and I knew what I wanted to do with it. I just didn't know about how going about doing this. During that 12-week course, I found out that I wanted to be a public speaker. I want to speak on certain topics that I only can speak on, that I can only give a certain vision on that. I've been linked up with an awesome mentor that has not only been guiding me, but helped me write my speech to where I was comfortable enough to come up here and talk about it. I've also met some wonderful people that just come in to say hello. Our grilled cheese for lifers are amazing. We met Randy Anderson that way, and he's also one of the ones that helped me get this speech proper and ready because he's been here before. You know, there's so many people. I know that Roslyn is was one of the mentors for somebody now too. So not only are we getting like so much support from everybody, I didn't know that I could grow so much in a matter of 6-7 months that what I am right now. Like if you would have told me I would have came up here and gave a speech, I would have probably backed out of it. But the people I have behind me are amazing. Not only do we have like one of the best bosses, or not even, I wouldn't say bosses, because that's not the way we run things. We're all a community where I'm considered a fellow, she's a fellow, everybody is considered a fellow. We're all treated equally. We're, you know, we all speak our minds exactly the way we would if we were talking about friendship. We've all become such a tight-knit family now that if one's missing, it feels like something, you know, something's really not right. I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have this place.
All right, very well, thank you, Ms. Hartog. Representative Johnson, and then we're going to move on to our bills.
Chair Mariani, to the panel up here, thank you for the work you're doing. It's great to see that somebody's willing to step up and work with these individuals. They're an important part of our community. With the work you do, it helps them with their self-esteem and makes them a better person. It's unfortunate that some of the consequences of the actions and decisions they made brought this forward, but I'm glad that the community that you live in and where you work is willing to step up and help these people. We have a gentleman that I'm working with it's the same situation. We're working with him, making him better. And it's up to all of us to do the things to help these people where we can, but we also have to, once they've finished their debt to society.
Terrific. Thank you to our lead, Representative Johnson. Once again, I want to thank you for your testimony today. I want to thank you for creating a platform in which you provide the supports where folks can help themselves and empower themselves and be powerful members of our society. Best wishes to you, ongoing best wishes to your work. Watch our work here as we continue to shift potential policy that will walk with you. And I'll be there for grilled cheese sandwiches very soon.
Counting on it.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All right, with that, we're going to move to House File 40, Representative Dehn. And Representative Dehn, you've got some witnesses. I'm going to ask them to move forward just to be ready. Ramsey County Attorney John Choi, Rob Stewart, Justice Anderson. And I think there's another individual with Restore the Vault. If you can just sort of cluster up front, that we will be efficient with movement and time. And Representative Dehn, your motion is to, I believe, to lay over House File 40? No? All right, I'll let you make the motion then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I would move that House File 40 be re-referred to Ways and Means.
Very well. Representative Dehn moves that House File 40 be re-referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. Representative Dehn, House File 40 is before us.
Great, thank you. And if a few other folks want to come up who are going to be testifying at some point, that would be great too. Wow. Mr. Chair, members of the committee and members of the public, my name is Raymond Dehn, and in addition to being a state representative, I'm a convicted felon. Today I bring before this committee House File 40, a bill related to the restoration of voting rights for those who have been convicted of a felony offense and are no longer locked up in a correctional facility, or for those who have never spent a day inside a correctional facility. This bill is similar to a bill introduced in 2002 by then State Representative Keith Ellison, who is now our State Attorney General. Over the last 17 years, it has gained greater and greater bipartisan support, and in recent years, even the Republican Chair of Public Safety was the chief author. House File 40, again, has several Republican co-authors, and it's time for Minnesota to pass this bill. Currently, roughly 63,000 people in Minnesota are under some type of felony supervision, either locked up in one of our several correction facilities, or they are out in the public. Roughly 53,000 Minnesotans who are out in the community doing all that they can to lead their best lives. This bill would allow those convicted of a felony who are no longer locked up or have never been incarcerated to vote. Minnesota would join 14 other states, along with the District of Columbia, and why we would join states like Oregon, Illinois, and Massachusetts. We also would join states like Ohio, Utah, and our neighbors to the northwest, North Dakota. It's time for Minnesota to join these states. I'm going to end my testimony to leave time for others, and I believe they will have some things to say, and I'd like to leave a little time for questions for members as well. So if we can go this way, and then we'll go that way.
Very well, let's go this way then. Thank you, Representative Dehn. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, and thank you to everybody who is here today. My name is Rob Stewart, and I would like to voice my strong support for House File 40. Like tens of thousands of other Minnesotans, this is a very personal issue for me. Not only am I a father and a husband, the executive director of a nonprofit, and a PhD candidate at the University of Minnesota, but I'm also a felon who couldn't vote for nearly 10 years. I'm from Owatonna, and in my mid-20s, I made choices that I'm not proud of. And I was convicted of felony drug possession. In the more than 2 years I was incarcerated, I sobered up, participated in numerous programs, and enrolled in college courses. I also began to invest my energy into making amends and doing what I could to give back to my community through things like tutoring and volunteering, and those are things that I continued after my release. When I got out, I tried to get my life back on track. But as we've heard from the representatives from Allsquare, and really anyone with a felony record, they will all tell you that everything after a felony in life gets harder. Trying to find somebody who will hire you, somebody who will rent to you, or even a college that will accept you. And on top of that, you can't vote. It doesn't matter that you may own a home or a business and are directly impacted by policy decisions made at the city or state levels, or that the outcome of a school referendum may directly impact your family, or that you're paying taxes. As citizens, we vote because we are invested in the future and the well-being of our towns and our state and our country. And who we let vote sends a signal whose voices we value, who we include as part of our communities. So for me, even though I was living in the community, every single election became a reminder that I was an outsider. I wasn't included as part of the community, and that my voice didn't matter. To be perfectly honest, I was tempted to just check out and stop caring. The irony, of course, is that we expect people involved in the criminal justice system to become productive citizens who are engaged in their communities. Yet we block them from participating in the most basic, the most fundamental duty of citizenship. The estimated 53,320 Minnesotans that we're talking about are our coworkers. They're our neighbors, our family members, and our friends. So I ask, shouldn't we do what we can to encourage their investment in their own futures, their families' futures, and the future of their communities? As for my own situation, I'm happy to report that my life has taken a very positive direction since my conviction. I got married, and we have a perfect 16-month-old little girl. And in a couple months, we are going to have a baby boy. I finished my bachelor's degree, summa cum laude, and I'm now finishing my PhD, where my research focuses on the barriers associated with successful reentry and reintegration following criminal justice involvement. And things are going well. But I can honestly say that it wasn't until I finally got my right to vote back that I started to feel whole again. And I started to feel like I was part of our community. That was really important to me. And I know it's important to the thousands of Minnesotans who still can't vote. So I encourage you to support felon voting rights restoration in House File 40.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. County Attorney Choi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Good afternoon. My name is John Choi. and I am the Ramsey County Attorney, and I am here today on behalf of the Minnesota County Attorneys Association, which represents all 87 counties. And since 2012, we have been in support of this bill, and I want to thank Representative Dehn for his long-term commitment, but it really is time. The reasons for our strong support for this bill is because in terms of improving the quality of justice for all people, I think one of the things that we as a society need to reflect the values that I think are really central in our communities. And it was President Trump, and he wasn't the first and he won't be the last president that will talk about that we are a country of redemption and second chances. And doing everything that we can after somebody has done everything that we've asked them to do to be accountable. We should be doing everything that we can to support their reintegration into society, to support their rehabilitation. And what this bill would do, it would make the rules very, very clear. And we would do exactly what North Dakota is doing. Their constitutional provisions, their words in their constitution are exactly the same as ours. Yet what we have is a more complicated system by which we regulate who can vote, and I think this system would be a much better one, much easier to understand, and also would send a very important message that, in fact, these individuals who are seeking a better life, who are reintegrating into society, that they're important, that they matter. And so those are the reasons for our very, very strong support of this bill, and we're proud to stand with Representative Dehn and all the advocates here in this room.
Thank you, County Attorney Choi.
Thank you, Chair Mariani and the members of the committee. My name is Anika Bowie. I'm representing the Restore the Vote Minnesota Coalition, as well as the Vice President for Minneapolis NAACP. I appreciate the testimonies as well as the presentation from All Square and support organizations who are restoring the right to vote. Today is Redemption Day, and redemption means the act of clearing of a debt. And today, the debt that is being cleared, I hope that's being cleared, has multiple names rooted in hopelessness, rooted in poor decisions, and also rooted in troubling circumstances. And what makes all of us human is that we all have paid a debt to someone or something. And right now, we have over 50,000 Minnesotans who have complied with the conditions of our court systems and now is living to comply with our community values. And one of our strongest community values is voting. Minnesota actually has the highest voting percentage, and we are the champions of making voting accessible for those who are eligible. So this is an issue of redemption and also a question of our state's conditions of release. Who is eligible to vote? The conditions should support what makes this North Star great. Voting should not be the award for being a law-abiding member of our society. Voting should be the process of our members to participate in what rewards this society. I just want to be very clear. We should not use voting as the golden nugget to what makes us great. We should allow people to participate in voting because that's what makes us great. Voting should be the process of our members to participate, and that is also rewarding. Serving time only tells one story of a person's convicted of a felon. And that one story should not be the maker of one's civil rights. Members of our society and our family members are more than their conditions of their sentence. They're more than the conditions from a judge or prosecutors. They are living in our society and they should participate. And this is a civil rights issue that is valued by our prosecutor, our lawmakers, and over 90 organizations who are in partnership with Restore the Vote Coalition in support of Bill HF 40. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowie. Welcome to the committee.
Hi, everyone. My name is Wintana Melakine. Many of you guys know me through my extensive policy and community organizing work. I come to you actually today as a small business owner. I was recently at the Capitol testifying on behalf of my business last week. I'm actually here testifying on behalf of my employees. I started a business we're actually going to be 6 months and 2 weeks. And when I started hiring, I was just hiring friends, family, people that I knew, people that had experience in the industry. I have done very extensive voter engagement work. I've knocked on tens of thousands of doors, talked to ton of voters. Each election day, I usually find myself volunteering somewhere. This election day, I was in the back of the house, in my kitchen, at my restaurant. I told my employees, if you need time off to go vote, go do it. And the response I actually got was that everybody was actually currently serving on felony probation. As someone that sees voting as a priority, I also see it essential to being able to support my staff and their ability to re-enter the community, not only as like my employees, but also as just standard citizens. I think that we often limit the abilities of folks that have former felony convictions, and I see them out here, running a very successful kitchen in a very prominent restaurant. And I want to be the type of boss that can support them in their expansion of their development. I want to be the type of boss that invests in people's leadership and can create a trajectory for them. But if I have staff on election day that literally feel like their government doesn't even support them in voting, how are they going to feel able to re-enter society as a valued member? And so I'm just here advocating as a small business owner that wants to see my staff have the same rights that I have. And so I ask each and every one of you to support small businesses that support our staffers.
Thank you, Ms. Meliky. Representative Dehn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask Justice Paul Anderson to come and speak on behalf of House File 40.
Welcome to the committee, Justice Anderson.
If I had gotten here early enough, I would have given green, yellow, and red cards to Representative Moeller. I used to have lights in front of her to let her know how much time she had to speak. Next time I'll do that, Representative.
I get to ask you questions now.
Okay, I have prepared remarks. I know you're tight for time. I'm going to give them to Representative Dehn, so I'll highlight what I want to say.
Thank you, Justice.
First of all, the restoration of the right to vote is good policy. No question from my mind that it is good policy. It's consistent with the goal of our criminal justice system and the type of civil society we want to be part of. It makes common sense, and basically it's the right thing to do. Now, as Kelly and others know, is that I believe in punishment of the wrongdoer. I've upheld the punishment of many felons who have come before our court. That's the way our society works. We punish the wrongdoer because they have had improper benefit and they need to pay the price. Also, I want to make sure you understand, I oppose the restoration of the right to anybody while they're in prison. That's a very different circumstance than what we're talking about here. But as I said, restoring the vote adheres to the broad goals of what the criminal justice system is about. Rehabilitation and preparation for somebody to come back into society and to be restored to their full rights as citizenship. What better time to teach somebody about how citizens should work than when they're on paper? I mean, make them find out where they need to go vote. I mean, you can't force them to vote, and I would never do that, but teach them, well, in fact, you have some obligation. Now, as a judge, I could be merciful, I could be compassionate, I could not be forgiving. There's another aspect to this issue that deals with society and how society is willing to forgive. Forgiveness has been delegated in our society to the legislature and to the executive. It's an awesome responsibility. Personally, I see no benefit from depriving somebody who is out of prison and in society and functioning in society to deprive them of the right to vote. The only thing that I can see that has an effect, it is a punishment, further punishment. Now, for those of you who want to punish and want to be harsh, okay, I'll concede you that. It's policy, you can go that way. I just disagree with you. Because why do we make criminal what we have taught people from the first grade, what is a civic duty? And is that if we truly believe we want to restore people, let's put them on that path as soon as we can and teach them how to be. Finally, I'm going to tell you that this is not a partisan issue. I know these people. I've reviewed their records. I see they're as likely to vote Republican as Democrat, and I can cite you statistics and studies that show that. In fact, some of them, I guess, are more likely to vote Republican than they are Democrat. So don't treat it as a partisan issue. Treat it as a policy issue. So forgiveness belongs to you. The road to redemption and rehabilitation belongs to you. And I will leave with the comments to say that I often told my clerks about how we did my job and whatever, and I quoted Sir Robert Morton from the play The Winslow Boy. You know, justice is often the easy part. You can justify a lot under the concept, it's just. I mean, we could see it all over the place. But this is something more than that. This is about doing the right thing. And I hope that you do the right thing for the civil society we want in Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Anderson. As usual, I always learn when I hear from you, and I'm always inspired when I hear.
Well, there's more in what I've written, so.
I'll take it home and get more inspired. So, Representative Dehn, I also do want to acknowledge there's written testimony from County Attorney Mike Freeman that has been distributed, and so that'll be entered into the record as well. Do you have any further testifiers?
Mr. Chair, I actually believe there's one person from the public who would like to come by and testify.
Wonderful. Why don't we open that up for public members? Please don't wander too far because there might be questions for the folks who have testified. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me. My name is Minister Janae Bates. I am representing Isaiah as well as my congregation where I serve as Associate Minister, which is Camphor Memorial United Methodist Church in St. Paul. And I feel really blessed to be before you today, specifically because today is Ash Wednesday. And for those of you who aren't familiar, this is a day of repentance and lament for many, many people. And so while we are calling for repentance and lament and redemption for those who are currently incarcerated or who were convicted of a crime, we also have to remember that we as Minnesotans are in need of redemption. And I say that because we have committed the crime of stealing someone's voice, someone's civic engagement, someone's civic responsibility to be able to completely act fully with their full dignity and humanity in our society. And we have taken that from them. And so the way that we can make ourselves right, the way that we can fully embody redemption as Minnesotans is by restoring their voice and their votes. And so I speak very highly in favor of this bill, HF 40, because this is the moral and just and right thing to do for all Minnesotans, not just those who we're speaking about today, but ourselves, Black, white, brown, greater Minnesotans, folks who live in the cities, in the suburbs. We are all in need of redemption today. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Bates, and thank you for your fine work at Camphor Church, really one of the bedrock institutions of my home city. Welcome, sir, to the committee.
Hello, thank you. My name is Tierre Caldwell. I'm a member of the FBI Community Outreach Program where I educate middle school kids and high school kids about drug education. I'm a member of the ACLU Smart Justice Advisory Board campaign, facilitator at the Fathers Project, and I'm a member of the Power People Leadership Institute, the largest reentry group in Minnesota and most successful, might I add. Also, I'm a member of Adults Reaching Kids, and it's a program with my church, with the youth ministry at New Creation Baptist Church. I've been sober for 10 years. I have a book being published in a couple months, and I've also recently served 7 years out of my 9-year sentence. I was recently released back into society in December of 2016. When you re-enter society, like, you look for things to, like, you gravitate towards things to make you feel a part of society, but also to erase the identity of prison. And when you get excluded from that, it kind of makes you feel like you're right back in a prison, just without the walls. So the only thing I'll say, I'll close, I'll be real quick. I just ask for redemption, and not exemption. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Thank you for the work you do with Power of People Institute. Representative Dehn?
Mr. Chair, I think if we go to questions, and then I'd like to make a closing statement.
Very well. We do have some
we go.
questions, beginning with Representative Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Dehn, for bringing this bill forward. As Justice Anderson mentioned, this is not a partisan issue. The partisan identity is not going to, I think, likely make an impact one way or the other. And we've also heard that this is going to affect people of color and white people as well. But I do think it's important that we remember the history of how some of these laws came to be, and that the biggest wave of these laws came after the Civil War when, coincidentally or not, black men first got the right to vote, and a lot of states were passing laws to try to restrict those rights in other ways. So this was what gave rise to a lot of the felon disenfranchisement that we have today. Also think it's important for us to remember some of the prior hearings that we've had about why this uniquely impacts Minnesota, and that's because of our probation laws, and we have the 6th longest probation terms in the country. And we heard from Jennifer Schroeder, who testified that she's going to be 73 before she's able to vote, even though she's out, has gotten a 4.0 and graduated from college. So these go together in terms of the impacts that we're seeing on a state. I have two questions. The first is that, as the chair mentioned, when I've been out door knocking a lot myself, and I've had a lot of conversations with folks who I've tried to encourage to vote and who've mentioned that they don't think they're able to, even though they're off paper. This, I think, has an impact even beyond the folks who currently aren't able to vote because there's a lack of understanding about what the laws are. And I'm curious if you know, Representative Dehn, if we have any indication of how many people choose not to vote because of a lack of understanding about how the law works and what that impact is beyond those that are prohibited under law.
Representative Dehn and members, let me just interrupt very quickly. We're a little bit behind time. I want to make sure we get to the next bill, and then we're going to have a brief presentation on the third bill. But Representative Dehn, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Long. I don't have exact numbers, but I've had those same conversations of individuals. And my first question is always, well, are you still on probation or supervision? And they say no. And I'll say, well, then you can vote. And they say, well, I don't want to risk it. You know, I applied for a pardon with the state of Minnesota so that I could vote.
Representative Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If I may answer that, I actually have information on that. I was part of 2 very extensive recounts and some others dealing with state legislature. A lot of comment is made about felons who want to vote illegally. That's not a big issue in the state of Minnesota. The Coleman-Franken race, I think they came up with 19 out of 3 million votes. But you are absolutely right. The consequence is that people don't want to violate the law. They are afraid they might violate the law. So even when they're able to vote, they are concerned and they don't vote. So I think there's a lot of self-disenfranchisement going on because of the way the law works. And I've seen that. I've looked at ballots and all of that.
Right. Mr. Chair, and that leads into my second question, which is for those 19 or for the individuals who actually are voting. Often they may not even know the rule about their ability not to vote. My question is for County Attorney Choi. I'm wondering if you've had to devote resources as a county attorney to prosecuting these cases, and if you think that those are a use of resources that are well tailored to protecting public safety.
No, they're not. And in fact, one of the things that this recent legislature did was to change the requirement so that before it used to be that the legislative branch was really trying to force the executive branch through the prosecution function to prosecute these cases. But because of some changes that the legislature has made, we're able to make just decisions in those circumstances. But when we are faced with those types of situations and the law is what it is, there is absolutely no value from a public safety perspective when we're spending time trying to investigate those situations. So I think, again, like I said before, this will make it very clear there is a lot of confusion out there for people, and they don't want to subject themselves and put themselves in peril to be in violation of the law. So I do think that many people are kind of deciding not to vote. And I think that's something that it can be done with this bill, which makes it very clear, if you're in prison, if you're in jail, if you're incarcerated, you can't vote. But if you are not, it's so easy, because if you're out there, go and vote. And then that's a very pro-social activity. It goes towards rehabilitation and makes us, as the state, as a community, much better and stronger.
Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair Considine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually called the revisor's office and said, when was this put in? When did we start doing this? Well, it was written in the Constitution in 1858. It's in there. But at that time, there wasn't a concept of parole and probation. So felons were people that were actually in prison. So once you walked out the door, your voting rights were brought back to you. It wasn't until we started getting into probation and parole that it was extended past when you were when you stepped out the door. I just actually, the gentleman from Owatonna, is he still here?
Mr. Stewart.
You're doing a dissertation on the problems of reentry?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart.
Possible to get a copy of that when you're done?
Sure. My dissertation primarily focuses on higher education access for people following involvement with the criminal justice system. But in addition to that, I'm also working on several projects related to voting and, one, for example, looking at people who are convicted of voting illegally because of being on a felony. Just to understand, to that earlier question.
Well, given your background, I think that might be real enlightening. So I'm sorry. Yeah, it would be really enlightening for us if you could maybe get that to our committee administrator for dissemination when you're done, of course.
Absolutely.
Indeed, and best wishes to you in your studies, Mr. Stewart. Representative Johnson.
Chair Mariani, a couple things have come up while we're sitting here listening to testimony and responses to the questions. First of all, I believe it was Judge Anderson mentioned that during the recount there was 19 felons that had voted. I'm just wondering if they were charged, since it's a crime, or how many were charged.
Chief Justice, or rather Justice.
We looked at a lot of
Yeah.
ballots, and when it all sorted out, from the county attorneys who were required to prosecute felony voting, improper voting by felons, that's the number that they came to us with. At the final argument in that court, I asked Joe Freeberg, attorney for Senator Coleman, and I asked Mark Eliason, the attorney for Senator Franklin, did you see any fraud in this election that caused you any concern? And the answer was an absolute no. Now, Freeberg said he knew why I asked that question because it would show up in my opinion, and it did. But that question was asked and answered. So, folks, don't deal in fake news or whatever you want to call it. It was not that present in that election.
Representative Dehn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to that point, I mean, I've gotten numbers from Hennepin County that over the past 4 years, there's actually been one individual who has been convicted of voting illegally. And I think the thing that we need to look at, and I don't know the law as well as some other people, but when it comes to issues of voting illegally, there has to be intention, which is often very, very hard to prove, which is one of the reasons why many county attorneys don't want to spend lots and lots of resources, because we do know there are individuals that vote mistakenly, which is very, very different than like saying voting at 3 polling places on one night, which clearly there is intention at those cases. I mean, a couple of years ago, there was a woman in her 90s, I believe, that was charged for voting a second time because she had already voted absentee, and ultimately it didn't get cross-referenced, so they were, and in the end, the county attorney did not charge that case. There was clearly an issue that there wasn't voter fraud intent that happened in that case. So.
Very well. Representative Johnson.
Let me clarify the number 19. That's how many cases they thought might be worth investigating.
Very well. Thank you, Justice Anderson. Representative Johnson.
Chair Mariani, so apparently none were charged out. Now, it is brought up that originally when our Constitution had in there, and I still believe it's a constitutional issue. We didn't have parole or probation. We don't have parole anymore, we have probation. And that was set up in the 70s. That was designed to help a couple different things. One, to lower the number of people in prison. It reduced our sentences because part of your felony sentence was served incarceration, and part of your sentence was on paper. Minnesota, yeah, we have the 6th largest time on paper. Or a parole, maybe, or probation. Maybe we need to look at that a little bit. I'm not sure yet. I'm still looking into that. But we have, I believe last time I checked, we're the 3rd shortest of incarceration time. It's a standoff. Or it's not a standoff, but it's a trade-off. Either short incarceration time, longer probation, shorter probation, longer incarceration. But we have to make sure that the victims of these crimes get their day as well. Now, you talked about as soon as they're getting out of prison, being able to vote. But we have some of the victims of these crimes that can't go to the polls. They can only vote by mail. That's in that Safe at Home program. They're not in any poll books because their name is kept private and hidden, and nobody can know where they live. They are in constant fear of the person who committed a crime against them finding them. Yet, if we allow them free access to the voting polls without finishing their sentence, they're getting more rights than the victims of the crimes that they committed.
Representative Johnson, as you recall from earlier testimony, we're also inching up toward the top in terms of length of probation time in our state. I think we're 13th was the last time. Total criminal supervision, not just on probation. Representative Dehn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to that point, and this will cut my closing remarks. I mean, this is something that's supported by, the County Corrections Association, the Minnesota County Attorneys, and, the Minnesota Council of Churches, Minnesota Catholic Conference, and to Representative Johnson's last point, Restoring the Vote is also supported by the Domestic Abuse Project. Again, this is about creating civic behavior for individuals that are no longer incarcerated, and anything we can do to help exacerbate an individual's desire to do what's right, I think we should be doing.
Representative Grosso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Dehn, I guess I'm looking at this, who would qualify to get their voting rights back and when? That's one part. And then I guess my concern is, would someone who is convicted of a predatory crime, like crime, sex, kidnapping, murder, child pornography, would these individuals also qualify?
Representative Dehn.
Mr. Chair, currently our state law is written so that when those individuals are off supervision, they can vote. So we already allow those individuals to vote once they're off supervision. The only thing that would change is they would be allowed to vote while they're currently under supervision.
Representative Grosso.
Is that an area that you would be willing to have them wait until the end of their supervision as to?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that wasn't yes to your question. Mr. Chair,
that was easy.
I mean, one of the things we're trying to do with this bill is create a bright line. And that bright line is if you are locked up, you cannot vote. If you are out in public, expected to pay taxes, lead a good life, raise your family, be responsible, that you can vote. And when we start looking at excluding certain types of crimes from voting, we now create a system that actually becomes more complicated than the current one that we have. So I think for the sake of that bright line and for the sake of all of our election judges and Secretary of State's office and all these other folks, I think it just makes sense.
Very well. Representative Edelson.
One more, if I may, sir.
Representative Grasso,
Okay.
quickly, please.
And just with that being said, I guess, since the, if they reoffend after their incarceration, if they reoffend, they would lose their right to vote again. Do you think that would be detrimental to suddenly have that back, just to have it taken away again? Would you consider, since the most common reoffense time is 3 years out, would you consider looking at, okay, let's give them something to, a goal for them to work towards, something to achieve? Put it 3 years out, and this person is free from incarceration, has shown that they're not going to reoffend in that time, and they have that waiting at the end for them, something to work towards.
Mr. Chair, my answer would be real similar to my last question. This is about the bright line, and what you're talking about is not having a bright line. So I would not support something like that. I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody on your side that wants to talk about something that, could be amenable to all of you. No one from your side has come and talked to me about this bill. The only time I've heard about it is through testimony. And I would just encourage all of us to sit down with bill authors and have conversations when we see these bills. Because I think there are some areas of, one, misunderstanding, which can be clarified much easier in a conversation than in a committee testimony. And, sometimes there's just disagreement, and we can go back and forth for 2-3 hours, and we might not come to agreement with those things. So I'm just encouraging us, as deadlines begin to be closer and closer, and time in committee becomes more and more precious, that we really be cognizant of other ways of trying to address these issues as well.
Members, the chair wants to take a vote on this bill, and so I'm going to ask the last two folks here to keep it super short. Representative Grasso, out of respect for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Allow this, but then we're going to move to Representative Edelson, then we're going to move to a vote. Representative Grasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I was just going to say, this is not a one side or the other issue here. This is trying to find some common ground from which to work from. So to say no one from my side came to talk to you, I've been talking to the right to vote folks, trying to give some encouragement, trying to say, you know what, there is some common ground to find. And 3 years would be a solid line. There would be no guessing. Just like after incarceration, if you put it out 3 years, that's a solid line. There's no guessing at that. So I'd be more than glad to talk to you about it.
To that point, very quickly, again, it would cause lots of confusion at polling places when people would have to be asked, so have you been out from lockup for 3 years? I don't see the practicality, but I think there are some areas that we can have some conversations to get some better understanding.
Sounds like some good future conversations as this bill moves along. Representative Edelson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Representative Dehn, for bringing this bill. I think it is long overdue. If we can trust people to be in our communities, we should trust them to vote. I would also like to, remind members, when we're talking about people that have committed crimes, the first testifier from Foursquare said that she committed a crime, but she's a small business owner that's contributing in our communities. Not all crimes are violent crimes. And again, we've been talking about in our committee a lot about who are convicted of crimes, and they're oftentimes impoverished people. As somebody that grew up in poverty, I'm lucky to not be in prison. But I want to thank you for bringing this bill. I just want to know, just on clarification, Representative Dehn, when does this bill actually take effect if we can get it through? Because there's no language that I see.
Madam Vice Chair? If there's no actual designated date, generally those take effect on August 1st, if I'm not mistaken, but I would leave that to nonpartisan staff to verify that.
Clarification from Mr. Anderson. Mr. Johnson.
No problem. Mr. Chair and members, yes, since there's no appropriation tied to this, it would be August 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. No, he's moving. Representative Dehn, you get the last word, and hopefully it'll be a brief one.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members, and thank you to all my testifiers. This is something that's long overdue in the state of Minnesota. We're seeing more and more states enfranchising people to vote, and I think it's time that we join the likes of Utah and North Dakota and allow those individuals who are not currently in lockup to be able to vote and have their voices heard when it comes to our elections. So thank you again for your consideration, and I would ask members to support. Thank you.
Very well. Representative Dehn renews his motion that House File 40 be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No. Motion prevails. Representative Dehn, as long as you're near a mic, I'm wondering if you would be so kind as to move House File 1934 and where are we, to be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Mr. Chair, I will move House File 1934 to be re-referred to Ways and Means.
Very well. Representative Gomez is coming to the stand. And Representative Dehn, I think she's got an amendment that needs to be moved right away. Is that correct, Representative Gomez?
Is there an author's amendment? Yeah. Mr. Chair, I believe there's an author's amendment, and I would move that as well.
Representative Dehn moves the A1 amendment to House File 1934. Hold on a second. Can we please take the conversation outside because we have to continue our business
You're
here.
so sweet.
Thank you all.
That's fine.
Thank you for your interest in the prior bill and for your work on it. Representative Dehn moves the A1 amendment to House File 1934, which puts the bill in the shape the author wishes it to be before us. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion prevails. Representative Gomez, House File 1934 as amended is before us. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm grateful to be here and for the work that you all have been doing to ensure that probation in Minnesota has its desired impact. Reducing recidivism, making the public safer, and the redemption piece that we're talking about here today. And I'm thankful for the framing of today's bills from the chair. Before you today for your consideration is House File 1934, which does two things. First, it provides an appropriation to the Commissioner of Corrections to be added to the Community Corrections Act subsidy for those counties where the DOC administers probation. Community Corrections Act counties consist of 34 counties, but provide the majority of probation supervision throughout the state of Minnesota. In addition to traditional probation, they provide pretrial services and supervised release. To successfully supervise their clients, they need funding to meet general operating needs, including cost of living adjustments for probation agent salaries and increased funds to cover rising insurance costs. This bill will allow CCA counties to cover their annual operating increase of 4% per year to maintain basic supervision on a local level. Second, the HF 1934 establishes a work group that offers recommendations for statewide implementation of dosage probation, an innovative and evidence-based approach to community supervision. As I know has come up in this committee a lot, we have long probation terms in Minnesota. Studies show that too little, or this is very critical, too much intervention when someone is on supervised release doesn't reduce recidivism. The dosage approach right-sizes probation by evaluating each person's likelihood to come back into contact with the criminal justice system. It identifies the underlying drivers of the behavior that led to incarceration to begin with, and it identifies and connects clients with community-based programs that offer evidence-based interventions that specifically address these drivers. So you get credit not just for the time that you're on supervision, but for the quality of the actions you take to address the behavior, thoughts, and habits that got you there to begin with. This results in shorter probation terms, fewer public resources expended, and fewer people returning to prison. The National Institute of Corrections, a division of the Justice Department, has 2 pilot sites for dosage probation currently, Napa, California, and Washington County, Minnesota. So we're lucky to have a practitioner of this approach right here who will help us understand dosage probation and share some initial reflections based on his experience implementing the approach in Washington County. I just want to note that in the amendment omits county probation officers, and it's my intention to amend the amendment, I guess, and add them, because there's not a spot for counties that administer their own probation, just for the CCA counties. So to discuss the first part of the bill, we have Carly Stark and Brian Copperid from the Minnesota Association of Community Corrections Act counties. So I'll pass it over to them if that's cool with the chair.
Very well. Welcome to the committee. We look forward to your testimony.
Mr. Chair, committee members, thank you. My name is Brian Copperid, and I am currently the president of the Minnesota Association of Community Correction Act Counties. My day job is I'm the director of community corrections for Dakota County. I spent the first 29 years of my career in Hennepin County. There are 34 counties that are currently engaged in the Community Corrections Act. The Community Corrections Act was started in 1973. It had a twofold reasoning. One was to keep people who are sentenced in the community, to supervise them in their natural communities, and the benefit of that was it also reduced the prison population. Why is this important? As you've heard several times throughout today, we supervise over 70% of the people who are left in the community, who remain in the community. That is excluding community corrections, CPO counties, and the DOC. So the 34 counties that we're speaking of have over 70% of the people that are on community supervision in the state of Minnesota. Why is this important? Because we keep the prison population low and we keep people in the state of Minnesota safe by supervising these people with cutting-edge technologies, cutting-edge evidence-based practices in terms of trying to rehabilitate them. We are in a very unique partnership with the state of Minnesota, specifically the Department of Corrections. In my understanding, this is unlike any other partnership in the state of Minnesota in the sense that we partner very, very closely with the Department of Corrections, and our funding comes through them directly. In terms of being here today, what we are asking for is we are asking for an amount of money obviously identified in the bill that would be spread over the next biennium in terms of increasing our subsidy that comes from the DOC. Whereas the DOC has built into their budget the capacity for dealing with the increased cost of operating, we do not see that. That does not come through in our funding. So in the context of that, we are asking you to specifically dedicate money to CCA counties so that we can continue to do the business that we do in terms of core supervision practices in the community, especially as we move towards criminal justice reform, as we move towards the potential of shorter terms of probation. It's our goal to keep as many people in the community, in their natural community, to restore them to stability and keep them thriving. And in the context of that, we need the money to do that. Whereas the DOC has money built in, we do not see that money. We oftentimes have to turn to our county boards and ask them to supply that money because the state budget does not keep up with our needs. So in the context of that, we are basically here asking the state to pay their proportionality of what it takes to keep people in the community and to supervise them effectively. So without that, I'm going to turn it over to Carly to say a few words, and then Tom Atkins from Washington County will be talking about dosage.
Very well. Welcome to the committee, Ms. Stark.
Thank you, Chair Mariani, committee members. My name is Carly Stark, and I am the Public Safety Policy Specialist with the Association of Minnesota Counties. I am also the Executive Director of the Minnesota Association of Community Corrections Act Counties. I'm here on behalf of AMC. We provide legislative advocacy for all 87 counties in the state of Minnesota. The Association of Minnesota Counties supports increasing funds for community supervision, including core county probation functions. County-based probation systems such as Community Corrections Act counties provide critical services for meeting the needs of our criminal justice system. Minnesota's county-based probation systems have been underfunded for nearly 2 decades. Increased funds are needed to support basic functions, and AMC supports the increase in operating costs requested in this bill. So thank you for hearing this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Stark. And welcome to you, sir, Mr. Atkins.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, you want this in 3 minutes at this point? We're down to 2:12.
Under 3 minutes would be great.
Under 3 minutes, okay. So I'm going to take a 20-minute presentation that I took down to 10 for this, and I'm going to follow this very quickly. It's perfect timing for today because you're talking about redemption. This is another path to redemption. It is one that makes a ton of sense for us. The idea of dosage probation came out of the National Institute of Corrections. You see a monograph up here that is done, and it's very detailed, and it is something that really makes sense to me. I've been in this business for 40 years, and in essence, what it's doing is rewarding probationers who participate in things that will reduce the likelihood of them committing new crimes, make them better citizens on the other end, and it's very rigorous, and what it allows them to do is earn their way off of probation, and they can either do their full term of probation or earn their way off. We have 10 judges in Washington County, all 10 of them have bought into this. Pete Orpett, our county attorney's bought into this. Our sheriff has bought into this. We have great support in Washington County for doing that. I'm going to walk you through this very quickly. Instead of tying the length of probation to just being in compliance with your conditions, we're tying it to actually participating in things that change criminal thinking and behavior. So I'm running through these slides very quickly on this at this point.
I apologize to you and thank you for your speed. Thank you.
Not a problem. I'm trying to keep everybody, you've had a long day, so I'm going to try and keep you on focus here just for a few minutes. The point of this is we know a ton about evidence-based practices and things that probation departments can do to be more effective. What we haven't figured out always is how to bring the rest of the justice partners into that. This project does that. I thought we were a little crazy when we took it on. Now I believe it's one of the paths that will change things in the future for us as we do that. So this slide is probably the simplest way to look at this model. There's not a lot simple about it, other than to say, what we do is do a risk assessment. We figure out who's low, moderate, and high risk in this model. If you're low risk, you're going to correct, you probably are going to correct from the day you were arrested. And the majority of those people are not going to come back to us. We hold them accountable for whatever conditions the court has set, and that's it. For moderate people, we assign 100 hours of risk-based intervention. By the way, it takes somebody who's dedicated to this about a year to do 100 hours, just as a matter. So this is very rigorous. You're not going to get all the detail on that today. Excuse me. We go 200 hours for a moderate to high and 300 hours for a high-risk person. The high-risk people are a hot mess, if you want to know what a risk assessment pulls out for them. These are people with a lot of things going on. And if you look at this, this is based on research about what are the things that are most likely to cause somebody to commit crimes. These things make sense. My criminal thinking, right? I didn't do any harm, they're insured. All the things that you know about criminal thinking. My lack of coping skills. Most of us don't just run over the person in front of us because they cut us off, right? People without good self-control do that. These are things where we're able to intervene with and change their future in thinking and through practice and skills. So in order to pull this off, we need risk assessments in place. We need to know what their criminogenic needs are, which we looked up at here. We focus on those with interventions, and we teach probation officers how not to just talk about, I could do my drill from a probation meeting back in 1980 in my sleep, okay? Did you have any police contact? Are you still working? Have you gone to your treatment program? Where are we at with that? This changes that work to change, so that a probation officer is involved in changing behavior in a significant way. I'm jumping over a few things here. We're going to get down to this thing. It engages community resources in a dramatically different way than we've had in the past. So probation typically isn't paying for all the treatment programs out there, but suddenly we have, if they want their community program to count, we have to go in and look at their curriculum, figure out if it's tackling those 5 criminogenic needs and how many hours we'll give them. And the clients that we have are going to the programs that will participate. Those programs have to report to us on a monthly basis. Is that person actively participating? So if I sit in that meeting and I got my head down and I'm not participating, it doesn't count. This stuff really is rigorous, and that's why we have prosecutors and others on with us. So it's been dramatic in terms of what has changed in that area for us. These are the stakeholders that are involved in this effort. This is out of the National Institute of Corrections. One of the things that this bill will do is start a task force to look at this. The goal was originally to try and do pilots with it. I've talked to the National Institute of Corrections. They are willing to set some money aside to help begin and train this task force and to work with this task force to move this forward. They believe in that. This work was done on a research basis, okay, so the research supports it, but they have not yet researched the application. So we've been the proof of concept that you can deliver this in an active live criminal justice setting, but they haven't evaluated that to see whether we're getting all of the outcomes that we want. I will tell you, I'm very, very encouraged by this. We have probation officers who were worn out because their clients wanted to come and meet with them and work on their problems. In all my 40 years, I cannot tell you that I have that problem. And so we had to figure out ways to support our staff in doing that. We have clients who, when they go to a treatment program, they know they're part of dosage probation involved in that. There's a variety of other items here. We can get more deeply into it, but I am here to tell you that after this many years, I believe in this, and I'm going to jump to the punchline on this. Our clients that are in part of dosage probation have completed 22,270 hours of programming that specifically targets those 5 top criminogenic needs. And we've already reduced supervision by 141 years of supervision in this project. It's a long-term venture. This isn't something you do overnight, and there's a lot of limitations to who we can do it with because we're the only county doing it. So we can't do it with people who transfer from another county because that judge may be in Ramsey County, not in Washington County. So there's a number of restrictions on that. Hopefully that gives you a brief synopsis of the overall picture. I would strongly encourage you to consider this task force to look at this and find out how this can inform us. We saw a drop between 2017 and 2018 of 6 months in our average length of probation served, went down 6 months, so we're now down to about 48 months in that period of time because they're earning early discharge, and they're earning it in a way that our judges and cops and folks support. And probably the best summary I can give you for this is we've been doing the same thing for a long time, and the reason I have people like Pete Orpett supporting this as a county attorney is because he says he can get behind something where we have a shot at making a difference. And just more time on probation alone doesn't do it. And so this by itself can start to shorten that. And Commissioner Wayne Johnson is here today supporting the funding that's in this bill, and he's heard more about this project as we go as well. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director Atkins, and congratulations, quite frankly, to this trailblazing work that Washington County is doing. And I want to acknowledge our Washington County Commissioner for his support of this. Members, we're going to move to questions. We're going to get that inside of 5 minutes. That's my goal. So we do have questions. Representative Muller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just one potential suggestion for task force membership is maybe someone from a statewide advocacy organization. I know with task forces, there are limits on, statutory task forces, there are limits on the number of members, but to the extent you have space, I think that would be an important group to include on the task force. That's all.
Very well, thank you, Representative Muller. Representative Johnson.
Chair Mariani, Director Atkins, I'm just wondering what validated risk assessment tools that they do use.
Good question, Director Atkins.
Mr. Chair, Representative Johnson, in our department, we're using the LSCMI, which is a validated risk tool. It takes a lot of rigor to put that in place properly. You can do them poorly, but it takes a lot of rigor to put them in place properly.
Representative Johnson.
Chair Mariani, I'm glad to hear that's the one you're using. That one actually does work very well. And then the other thing, in the amendment, it does not say who the appointing authority is. That's something that needs to be taken care of.
Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. We have another committee stop, so I'll deal with that in the interim. I appreciate it.
Very well. Any further questions? Anyone else wish to comment on House File 1934 as amended? If not, then this bill, if it's successful, move on to Ways and Means. It's going to make a stop at government ops, and at some point, it's going to make its way back here. Senator Goldman's just letting you know. So, with that, all in favor of, or rather, I'm sorry, Representative Dehn renews his motion that House File 1934, as amended, be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion prevails. Thank you, Representative Gomez. Thank you, Director Atkins, and Mr. Copperroot,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner,
members.
as well for presenting this bill. Members, we're not going to take up the third bill. We'll do that at our next meeting. And in the meantime, this committee stands adjourned.